Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. You guys are in Atlanta right now, right?
Atlanta right now. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. How long have you guys been in that area?
It'll be my 7-year anniversary on June 1st.
Wow.
I think 7 years. So, which means you'll be 7 years next
2016 will be 2023 for me.
Yeah.
7 years. So 6 years for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both lived in LA at the same time. We'd never met out there.
Oh, okay.
She moved to Nashville. I came out here. Then
I came to Atlanta first.
and then I came out here, and then we
He was
both
following
met.
me. His heart just was pulled.
And then
Really?
we both, yeah. There was a subconscious urge. And then we met when the year the Falcons lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots. We met at a Super Bowl party watching that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was really crazy.
It was an angry evening. Like, I'm a huge Steelers fan.
Yeah.
So I really wanted the Falcons to beat the Patriots. And it just did not happen. And like,
Dang.
and you thought it was gonna happen. And then like your heart was just crushed.
Guys, trust me, Seattle knows all about heartbreaking Super Bowl losses, okay? What's up, everyone? Thomas here with For Real Movie News and Reviews. And while I understand most people are going into 2022 with high hopes for many blessings, I am delighted to start the new year with The Curse. The Curse of La Patasola. I came up with that all by myself, guys.
I love that.
Not ready for it. I love it.
The Curse of La Patasola releases on streaming and in select theaters on January 14th. And I am excited to be speaking today with the film's director, Gillie Jones, and producer, Gillie Jones, the husband and wife filmmaking duo who also star in the film. AJ and Gillie, thank you guys so much for being able to make some time to talk about your film. I'm excited about this.
Absolutely. We're excited too.
Yeah, we're pumped. We're excited. Many curses for everyone, 2022.
Many curses. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, congratulations are in order, guys. You guys got this on the big screen. It's going to some select theaters throughout the country.
Thank you.
Our mind is blown.
Yeah, it's really nuts right now.
Yeah.
I was actually really happy to see Seattle listed on that list. We have a theater here in the Seattle area that'll be playing it as well. So
yes.
Yeah. If people, we'd tell anybody, if people feel safe enough, like please go support it in theaters. We understand a lot of people aren't wanting to go sit in a theater with strangers for a while, so it's going to be on VOD as well at the same time. But if you can, please go see it in theaters, because that's probably the best way that we could get supported for the movie itself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely recommending that one way or the other. See it in theaters, see it on streaming. I've been excited to talk to my friends about it because I have friends who are horror movie fans, and this is just like right up their alley, that monster flick and the tension building. I can't wait to talk more about it. But I guess I should, I wanted to let you guys know that I came across this this project because of your editor, Walker Whited. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a little less than a year and a half ago about his feature-length directorial debut, By Night's End, which is phenomenal action thriller home invasion film. I loved it, and I enjoyed talking with him as well. And so when he reached out and said that this was coming out and asked if I was interested in covering it, I'm like, heck yeah. You're recommending
we
it.
love, huge shout out to Walker and Sean at W Squared. They were pretty much our entire post-production team, and they did the work of 25 people, and they were incredible.
Unbelievable.
So anybody should work with them, let them make another movie, like, please.
Yes.
MVPs for sure. And
you don't have to be in Atlanta to work with them, because I will say, like, a lot of what we did, because we were still in COVID, was phone calls video over
shout out Frame.io.
Frame.io.
Shout out Adobe now and Frame.io. Yes.
Nice. I mean, I'm sure with this kind of production, there's a lot of cooperation that had to happen, especially with it happening during COVID and all the challenges that came with that. And that's also something that we'll probably talk more about. But I'm interested, how did you guys get connected with Walker?
So our DP AJ had done a pilot in 2016, and the producer of it, Bradley Hayes, we brought him on as the DP for La Patasola, and he actually had recommended W Squared Media to handle color and sound, and we watched By Night's End as like the kind of test run of like, okay, well, like, let's take a look at their work. And then we're like, oh, wait, they also edited this? Like, yeah, they get the vibe of the cutting and everything. So then we ended up bringing them on to do all of post, and it was a great, great decision.
They what we liked about them specifically was they, you know, Walker's a director. And so a lot of post in Atlanta specifically, those guys are used to working on like the bigger post houses, obviously like big TV shows and stuff, but something more in our legitimate kind of budget range of being able to make this movie. You got people who are more doing like smaller kind of like indie spec commercials, music videos, things like that. So to find somebody who at least kind of speaks the language of cinema and has a little bit of that director's eye, like eye when they're doing the edit, it made, because we were doing it through COVID, it made the process. He had a lot of the same instincts that I had on like cuts, transitions, moments, beats, all sorts of it. So that's kind of what really drew us to them, was they're like cinematic filmmakers, and we like that about those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And it turned out fantastic. I mean, if I haven't mentioned yet, I loved the film.
Thank you.
Very well done. Yeah, no, and you should be. It's like I said, it really does fulfill you know, that horror genre, but there's also so much dynamic to the script, and you know, there's some comedy, there's some pop culture. Oh man, the pop culture references, I love them.
I'm really happy to hear you say that, because when I watch it, I feel like it has more, I guess I would say, like magic to it than just straight horror. It's not just setups for jump scares. Like I feel like there's more Jurassic Park thrill to it than there is just like, you know, Conjuring, jumpy ghost demon stuff to it. So that's why I feel like we found something special, a special little movie that I think we were all kind of surprised we found as we were putting it together. Yeah, you
really did. You know what? We should probably tell people what this movie is about. Can you guys just give a brief synopsis of what La Patasola is about?
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to know about the Patasola first? Do you want to know about the movie?
Yeah. Give us some background on the actual Patasola, and then kind of tell me how that fits into your film and what the story is about.
Yeah, so I'm from Orlando, Florida, where we ended up filming the movie. And one of my really close friends, she's Colombian, and we had our location. We knew we were going to film in this really terrifying state park. The location kind of was the reason we even thought about filming any movie at all. And we said it has to be a horror movie because the location's perfect for it. And Central Florida, you know, is like, you look this way and it's like literally the Amazon rainforest, and you look this way and it's like swampy bog. Central Florida is really diverse in that way. And so I said, we need a monster that like fits in this world, something that just makes sense in this kind of swampy, jungly world. So I literally started Googling like jungle monsters and stuff like that. And a lot of them that would pop up were from Colombia. And I said, oh, my really good close friend, Daniela, who I ended up co-creating the story with, I said, she is Colombian. I bet you she might have a monster that she would enjoy like sharing with us. And so she legitimately showed me pages from this, I don't know, like a glossary or like this book that has been passed down through her family of these ancient Amazonian creatures. There are hundreds, thousands of creatures in South America that they believe are in the jungle and in the rainforest. And we settled on the Patasola because I thought it was she was the most tangible to do. Like some of these creatures are you can barely even picture what they look like. Nonetheless, for a low budget indie film, be able to realistically create it. So the Patasola, so she felt the most tangible to do. She felt the most familiar like we would get what we're watching with her folklore, but then we also had the because she's never been seen on screen before, and because there are so many different versions of her legend, we had a little bit of freedom to make her grow into the final beast that is in the movie.
And I just really like her actual legend. So she lived thousands of years ago in South America, and her husband's boss seduced her. And when her husband found out that she had cheated on him, he murdered their 2 children in front of her, chopped off her leg, and left her in the rainforest to die. And her spirit was so upset and like sad and enraged by that it lived on in the one-legged form spirit. So now she's become this warning that women say to their husbands as they're going off to work every day, like, don't do anything bad or the Patasola is going to come after you, because she goes after cheaters.
Yeah,
this is really funny. I watched this movie with my husband, and it's so funny because he's like, are you paying attention? Do you see what happens?
Yep. Her whole legend is on cheating. There's it's many, every town, family, country, region has a different sort of version of the Patasola, or a different belief. Like some people believe she is this beautiful one-legged woman in a white dress. Other people believe that she is this monstrous dinosaur-sized thing. So in our movie, what Danielle and I wanted to do is we wanted to kind of take people through all the possibilities of what she is, and kind of start her in one place, and then.
I think that's awesome, because I know that there are cultures that have these stories to, like, you know, scare kids into, you know, behaving and things like that, right?
Yes.
So it was interesting to see this like adult version of that, this grown-up version of like, oh yeah, like, you know, we can apply this concept of like this mythical creature that will get you if you do something wrong, right? So I love that.
I would like say to anybody, like I guarantee you have a friend somewhere who has some type of South American heritage. Like, ask them about like the Patasola, but also what else did you learn? I mean, there are all across the world, there are thousands of beliefs and creatures and things that you just never know people believe, or you never have even heard of. And I think that was what, working with Daniela, I was most excited about, was we could make something tangible. We could make a movie. It didn't have to be a giant mega million dollar thing we'd never make, but then we could also take something and be really creative and be really new and be really innovative with that.
That was one of the reasons I would say our monster team came on board. Max, sorry, that's our dog.
Oh, that is totally fine.
Room scratching.
No worries. I have 3 dogs, and they like to interrupt all the time.
Family affair.
Yes. So. Max judges all of our movies and tells us if they're going to be good or not.
Right.
But anyway, so Hex Mortis Design Syndicate. So they're in Atlanta, and they've created all of the creatures for the Vampire Diaries, The Walking Dead, the originals. Like, they know every monster under the sun in this world, and they had never heard of the Patasola before. So when we brought her to them, they were like, yes, we want to help bring this creature to life that no one's ever seen before. Like, we've never seen her before.
Technically, first they said, you want to make a giant one-legged what? And then they went, oh, okay, yeah, let's do it. That was cool.
You just had to explain it a little bit more, and like, you know, get them to see the vision.
And so when it came to the actual movie, like the script itself, since I wanted to keep it really simple, and her whole legend is about cheating, and I feel like it would have been really easy and a little bit generic to make, like, you know, a bunch of hot people in the woods hooking up. And so I wanted to write something that just felt a little bit more authentic. Because what I love about her legend is that it's not like you don't have to be a year or 2 or 3 or serial cheater to be haunted by the Patasola. It's like literally like one moment of weakness, one moment where you blink, where you make a mistake. Like I love the idea that can have ramifications beyond everything, or just beyond the act itself, and it trickles down to all the people who are affected. Because what's really cool about her in this movie is that the curse, she haunts everybody. So when there is a cheat, when there is an infidelity, is an old word, when there's a you know the word,
when there's a slip up, when there's a
exactly, it doesn't just affect the people directly involved. It affects the trust and the commitment of the people who are on the fringes of it. And so our movie, I want to keep it really simple. It's just about two struggling couples, kind of late 20s, early 30s, kind of authentic couples who are trying to find themselves. They go on a weekend camping trip. They learn about the Patasola because one of the characters, her family's Colombian, and a moment, you almost can't even call it cheating, a moment of weakness happens, and then they get haunted by the Patasola, and we get to see how she haunts them and how she claims her victims, and what she does and what she turns into to kind of ultimately destroy you from the inside, basically. So the simple long way to put the movie.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I love how these characters are written, because they're so you have two very strong personalities and two kind of passive personalities, and that creates conflict amongst the couples and then amongst the strong personalities. So there's kind of conflict going on everywhere here, and it's interesting because there's, like I was saying, with the dynamic of the script, not only does that create conflict, but it also creates a little comedy. There's some funny parts, I thought.
You know what's so funny is when we put the movie together, when I wrote it, when you write, you kind of get into that like horror, moody mindset. So the whole script feels dark. It just feels moody. If you read it on paper, it does just kind of feel, oh, everyone's in a bad mood the whole time. But then when we put the movie together and we showed it to some close friends, family, kind of like screened it, people were cracking up the whole time. And I was like,
I
didn't know the movie was funny, but it's funny.
But I think a big piece of that has to do with like Patrick Walker, who plays one of the leads in us. He, I feel like, brought such an amazing chemistry and helped pull us and Najah Bradley, the other star, all together. And he kind of opened the door for those moments to happen on set. So I feel like a lot of the comedy, it's in the writing, but I feel like Patrick helped us pull it out of the writing.
Yeah, it's definitely more in the casting, I would say, than in the writing itself. And allowing your actors to, I think authenticity is funny. I don't necessarily feel like jokes are funny. So it's just, there's so many just legitimate, like authentic, hilarious little things that happen that you watch it and you're like, this is actually pretty funny.
And I'm a comedy actress. Like that's my background. I come from improv and comedy. So I was really nervous and was like, oh my God, like horror. Okay, must bring that. But then Patrick made me feel comfortable enough in the scene. I'm on screen a lot with it's our dog sneezing. He doesn't know Sorry.
That's funny.
But you know, like being in those moments with Patrick, again, was such an amazing actor to be with on set because he would open the door to that and I would be like, oh, cool, we're going here. And then you're just having those moments together. And as a director, AJ doesn't cut you like super fast. So again, you have the room to breathe as an actor and actress to like just explore a little bit at the end of a scene. And it helped give us the ability to add in those moments, which then watching the final product just makes it that much more entertaining and enjoyable as a film overall, in addition to being a great horror film. In my opinion.
Oh no, absolutely. Because I mean, there are, and you were kind of talking about it earlier, AJ, where there are horror movies that exist specifically to do jump scares, and that always comes off so cheesy to me. And I
Yeah.
also think, like, I mean, would that be scary if I was actually there? Or did you just like crank up the volume and, make me jump, right? Like,
Yeah, and I've heard that from like screenwriting like instructors, or like if you just kind of get into genre in screenwriting, yeah, there are people who will literally tell you, oh, you're writing a horror movie, okay, you have to have a scare every 10 pages or else
and
it's not a horror.
Yeah.
And you're like, it there are a lot of rules that are good to know because they are effective, but then at the end of the day, you're trying to create an art form. You're not trying to, we don't get into this for the formulaic money making business side. You get into it because you want to make something really unique that you're really proud of. And I feel like we did that, but still kept true to enough of the kind of horror tropes, I guess you would say, so that a horror fan would enjoy it. But I do think I think there are plenty of horror movies that only horror fans will like. I feel like our movie kind of straddles the fence a little bit. I feel like horror fans will enjoy it, but then I also feel like people who just enjoy
good movies,
a good adventure comedy might enjoy too. I feel like there's a lot of audience for it.
Yeah, I do think it has a kind of a broader appeal in that sense, not just being that just for horror fans, but I think it was just a fun movie for us to watch. And that's what's important to me. Like, if you have the jump scares or whatever, like, that's not as important as, did I enjoy the experience, right? And I think with this, with this one, it was just a fun experience. And I know, me and my husband, we were just like having fun with it and talking about it, and like there were some scares, but then there were some funny parts that we laughed at. It really is a fun film to experience.
Oh, that's good to hear. I think that's always funny too, if you go like, that was a fun experience for a horror film. Like, I feel like that there's something special in that, because like if I think about like, I think of something like Jurassic Park. That's just kind of the closest thing I can even imagine it to. There's plenty of like scary, thrilling moments in Jurassic Park, but at the end of the day, you leave Jurassic Park going, man, I really enjoyed that. Like, you don't feel scared, you don't feel horrored, so to speak. It just it lingers with you.
I'm happy that you're mentioning Jurassic Park, because this is like a recent realization to me, where I always thought Jurassic Park is an action adventure movie, but really this is a horror film.
It's definitely a
creature
thriller.
Yeah. There are creatures in Jurassic Park that are terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, the whole raptor stuff in the kitchen and stuff, I mean, that's like legitimate jump scare, like horror stuff he was doing in there. I mean, but again, you don't necessarily think about that. You think of the awe and the excitement of dinosaurs of Jurassic Park.
And it's a fun film. So I mean, I think that's a really good thing for you to point out is yes, was the movie fun? You can have your rules, but ultimately, was it fun? And I think you guys nailed that here. So well done on that. It does make me wonder. So AJ, you directed, Gillie, you produced, and then of course both acted in it. I wanted to get your insight on like what wearing multiple hats in this production was like. Is that a challenge? Was it easier for you? Like, how did that work with you guys?
You go ahead.
So I actually started off in the industry as a personal assistant, where I wore 20 hats. And then I was a national regional manager. Sorry, that's a mouthful, but I worked for the second largest theater company in the country, and I was one of their star actresses. And I also was doing administrative, like teaching, directing stuff for them as well. I created all of their training programs, and then we started a small business together, where again, when you are a small business owner, you're wearing 20 hats. So I just have always, from day one of being in the industry, have worn multiple hats, to the point now where if I'm not wearing multiple hats, it's almost like boring, or I feel like I'm not doing good enough. Like, so, it wasn't scary, the thought of doing it, but I really appreciate our first AD, Carlos Velasco, who helped really like line produce and produce as well. He looked at me 3 months out and was like, you need an on-set producer, because you're also the lead actress. and I need you to be able to focus, because if you're not doing a good acting job, the movie's not going to be good. So I called Jack Young, who comes from kind of a similar background of me in that like road manager assistant vibe. I have very high expectations for people that are my business partners and that I work with. So I was like, oh, hiring a partner to produce this with me is scary, but I know you need to. So call Jack. And then as soon as we got down to Florida, Jack and Carlos were very good about going, okay, Jillian, now you're going to take off your producer hat and we really need you to like just be an actress. So the reason that it ended up being doable and not terrible was because I had an amazing production team working with me. And it really is like, this was our first feature. And I think it was a huge lesson for me, how many people it takes to make a great feature. It's not something that you can do by yourself. And I didn't have to be Wonder Woman because I had people that I trusted with money, right? Like that's huge because it's a business. And I'm going, okay, here's my baby for 18 days while I'm going to focus on acting. And there were moments where, you know, the producer had to come on. But for the most part, like we had done so much pre-production and planning that when we got down onto set, I really was able to just focus on acting. And I think that's what allowed me to really, my character to shine in this.
Yeah. Me being able to direct, co-write, and be one of the leads in the movie is kind of a culmination of 11 years of a lot of different work and like training. So when I very first started back in college, I was an actor, period, end of story. I was just an actor. I moved to LA when I was 20. I studied at Sanford Meisner's Playhouse West. I was on stage for like 4 straight years doing shows all over LA. Like I was like the actor, Daniel Day-Lewis is the man guy. Like I was that guy. And while I was in that sort of realm, I was sort of dabbling in screenwriting. So 8-9 years ago, I was not nearly skilled enough to be able to write something like this then. But when I moved to Atlanta, I had been acting for like 7 years at that point, and I had finally started to feel good enough, like professionally. I was booking enough professionally where I was like, okay, acting feels natural to me now. It feels like a skill that I have. Now I am ready to start exploring other arts, other things that I find interesting. And that's when I started to be a little bit more interested in screenwriting. I've written plenty of things that are not great that needed to get out of the system to work and train to get up to writing something like this. And then as a director, honestly, owning the business, our business, Nova House, we were a membership-based taping service for actors. So we taped people's auditions for them for like a monthly kind of gym kind of membership. And I was sort of the main anchor taping coach. Like I was there almost every day of the week. Up until a certain point, I was there every day of the week.
We were open over 90 hours a week, so it's a lot of time behind the camera.
and what I realized is in helping so many people tape their auditions, it was basically like 3 years of directing school, of working with actors for me, without even thinking about it in that way. Knowing how people look on screen, what's effective on screen, what is authentic on screen, how to be a live person on screen. And so a very strange combination of all of those different skills that just took a lot of patience and time to get good enough at all of those, led me to even fathoming thinking that I could do all of these jobs on this movie. Because if I wasn't as good a good enough actor, there's no point in me being in it because the movie suffers. The same thing for her, the movie suffers. Or if I'm not a good enough director, if I'm not a good enough writer, like there's no reason to. The reason we did so many jobs is we didn't need money.
Yes, that's also true.
Honestly, I mean, we were actively
That's
looking.
also
We
true.
were actively looking for a director because I knew I wanted to be in it, and I had co-written it, and so I said we should get a director with some experience, and we just had no budget left.
Yeah.
We had nothing, and a mentor of mine told me, "Well, you should just direct it," and then that just kind of started the whole thinking of, "Oh, okay, well, my producer's right here, so if I have a question, I can get the producer's answer immediately." I co-wrote the script, so if I need to change a scene or if I need to cut a scene or something kind of in the moment on the day, which happens right in the middle of our shoot, I could do it instantly. So it just started to click and make a lot of sense. But it was really hard. Yeah, it was very, very hard. Because not only do you have the stress of, well, I hope I'm good enough as an actor to kind of anchor the movie and like be interesting for 90 minutes and be authentic. Oh, I also have to be the one to watch the monitor and make sure it looks like a movie.
Right.
I have to know the story so much inside out. So yeah, I would just say it was just kind of extra pressures that if I had tried to do it 6 or 7 years ago, it probably would have been too big for me. But having been through so many years of just kind of head down working and training, it kind of finally culminated where it just kind of clicked and felt right.
And I think naturally AJ is such an amazing leader of people. And your patience, he has so much more patience than me. That he was able to handle that pressure because everyone on set is coming to him with all of the questions constantly, and he has to be the final decision maker. And I think you just handled all of the different personalities and questions and everything on set amazingly. And I think that's a big part of the success of it is just him being such a good leader and manager of people too. You need that skill as a director.
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, in addition to all of that, which is already challenging enough, you guys had COVID to deal with as well, and working around COVID precautions. Like, how did that factor into what is already a complicated process?
So we have to say thank you to Tyler Perry for the COVID bubble idea, quite honestly, because right when he had started doing that,
everything else was shut down.
Everything was shut down except for Tyler Perry.
And he was filming because he created the
COVID bubble where like you go to set and you're in quarantine beforehand. Everyone gets like tested multiple times and then you can't leave set the entire time.
It's like movie camp.
And his mom works for a vacation rental company down in Florida. He had said he's from Orlando. And we went down to surprise her for Mother's Day. And she had to go around to the empty vacation homes and like flush toilets to keep the toilets working because of COVID. Everyone had canceled all of the travel plans. So no one's in these homes using the toilets. So thank you, toilets, for helping us figure out that these homes were all empty. And we had already been like exploring the park. And COVID was a big question mark of like, how do we do this safely? And Tyler had just announced his plan for the COVID bubble. So we were like, well, what if we rented vacation homes that are empty anyway and like clump people together and create our own COVID bubble down in Florida? So that's actually what we did. And then the way COVID was actually helpful is all of these unbelievably talented below the line crew were not working. So they were like, oh, you want to hire me for like 3 straight weeks? Cool. Cause I'm just at home. Sure. I'll come down to Florida and like do your project. And mind you, like Josh Bedsole, our focus puller,
he was our first AC.
He was our first AC, makes so many of our moments magic in the movie. And I remember reading his IMDb, like as the producer, I had to call everyone to like make the offer. I was so intimidated to make that phone call because I'm like looking at his resume, looking at his IMDb page, and like this was with a couple of our crews. I'm like, so intimidated. It's my first feature producing. Oh my God. And I called him and like, yeah, absolutely. Like I'll come out for the rate that you're offering. And I was
Mhm.
okay, great. Thanks. It's like you're like asking a guy out to like
Right.
go on a first date with you, and then you're like, "Do you want to work on my movie?" Okay,
She'd
great.
come out in the living room and she'd be sweaty and she'd be like, okay, I'm gonna call him.
I'm gonna call him now.
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah,
They'll say yes, it's fine. Okay, I'm gonna call him now.
but COVID gave us that ability. So it really was this perfect storm of like the COVID bubble, having everyone quarantined together in these houses gave us such an amazing personality family vibe on set.
It was like the real world.
Yeah. It was.
Because these houses, they're so much better than like hotel rooms for people. Because A, you're not dealing with anyone from like the general public, so it's much safer, more contained. But also like you have like a full kitchen, you have a pool, you have like a hot tub, you have like game rooms with like pool tables and stuff. Like they're actually kind of awesome.
Yeah,
they really are.
I mean, I want to come.
Yeah.
Well, like I want to make every film that way in the future, but
Right.
it's hard when you tell people like, oh, and by the way, you can't see your kids for 3 weeks. Like
Right.
that was really hard on some.
Yeah,
of the people.
The whole idea was born because of COVID, because we had to close the business because of COVID.
Yep.
And then we went to the park just on a hike before we even had the idea, and that's just kind of where the spark came from. Of, you know, okay, they said film things, but film them with a really small cast. We were like, okay, we can do that.
Yep.
Film them outside. We were like,
Check.
oh, well, there's no one at this park. Literally, the park was open while we were actually filming. We may have seen like 3 people in 3 weeks. Like it was nobody out there. Yeah, it's right next to Disney World. It's called Lake Louisa State Park. You never
how's nobody there? This sounds like a really cool place.
Yeah, you never know it's there. And so yeah, the most challenging part of COVID was because we knew we had a really smart system once we were down there. I think the hardest part was making sure to get everyone down there.
Yeah.
Because pretty much everybody came from Atlanta, at least crew wise. So that was probably the biggest stress for us, because we also had our own
COVID
rapid tests.
Yeah,
So
COVID testing.
So we had people test before they came down. We tested people as soon as they landed.
Before they were allowed to go into the vacation home.
And then we tested throughout the whole shoot as well. And so it was actually pretty funny was that they had a scene, the scene where they're smoking, where they're doing the
Najah
yoga and
and I
they're
are sharing
smoking. So in like as the actors, they actually wanted to pass the joint and share the actual joint. And they were like, oh, well, COVID, should we not do that? Somebody had the idea. They said, well, we could just test you both right now and see if you don't have it. And they said, oh, well, that's fine. So we literally cut a take. We rapid tested both of them. We found out they were both negative in like 4 minutes, and then we picked back up the next take and we just redid it. So I think it was because COVID did not come into, because it didn't come into something that had already been created. It from the beginning, it was a part of the whole process. So for us, it was just like another part of the production process. Okay, so we've got our camera team, we've got our G&E team, we've got our special effects team, we've got COVID. It's just, to us, it's just another. It was, for this project, it was kind of just a part of the experience. And
my 2 co-producers, Carlos Velasco and Jack Young, are both actually COVID compliance officers. And Jack is also a trained EMT. So that was like super clutch as well.
Right.
We took it seriously to the point where the movie was never more important than people's safety and COVID. So every question before we did anything was, can we do it safely? And that was even from the first iteration of even, can we make a movie? Like, can we do it safely?
That's awesome. And I mean, like I said, that's probably all these challenges, but it also sounds like so much kind of also fell into place at the same time. So that's really cool that you kind of have this storm, but it's a perfect storm, right? Everything just worked out.
We've all I think we've all experienced when we really want to achieve something. You go balls to the wall for it, and then enough things start to go wrong where you eventually come to the conclusion of, oh, maybe this is not meant for me, this specific thing. So when you've had enough of that happen, whenever you find that one thing that you're sort of meant to do, the opposite happens. And it's just like one little domino. The amount of like serendipity, and the amount of like, we need someone to do VFX. We knew somebody. We need someone to build our monster. We knew somebody. We needed housing for somebody. We knew somebody. We needed testing. We got it. Just the amount of things that fell into place, it became, more of that storm of just like, oh, this is like meant to happen. It just sort of felt that way after a certain point. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's awesome. You mentioned the monster. Tell me more about that. Because this monster, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting when you build up to it in the film, and then there's this really, really fun like horror finale with this monster, and it's so cool to watch. But tell me more about how the monster developed, and how many versions of the monster did you guys go through? Like, what was how did all that happen?
Yeah, so we knew from once we kind of settled on the idea of the Patasola, Danielle and I both knew that we wanted to show the most intense version of her we could, because in the nicest way possible, like a terrifying woman in a white dress has kind of been done before, or like vampires, that it's kind of just been done. So even if it's something new, it's still too familiar. So we knew. Some people believe the Patasola is this gigantic creature, one giant like bovine hoof, one giant leg, like huge claws, and they say that she's crazy fast. So we said we kind of need to do that, like to make the movie worth it. We need to do that. We need to go Jurassic Park. We need to give you, if you go and you give us 85 minutes of your time, we need to say thank you for the last 15 and show you something epic. And then so we knew we wanted to do it practically. To me, I just believe in cinema so much, and I believe in, I know we keep talking about Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park is the reason we have so much CGI now, and I understand that. But when you think about like Spielberg, something like E.T., I really believe it was the fact that he was just there in the room. Star Wars with the original Yoda, like he was real. You could touch him. And one of my favorites is the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes,
because the chocolate room is real. You can touch it. He kicked that ball of whatever they were drinking from the river. Like when it's real, I feel like it just hits you differently.
As an actress too, I mean, I was gonna say, like, I feel like there's a really beautiful moment for me with the Patasola, and the actor in the suit is he was one of my original mentors, Hamid Thompson, but also is a really good friend of mine. And to like have him in the suit acting with me in that was like that. I think that definitely brought more zhuzh for me at the end, doing the work in the scenes with the creature.
And again, and also just realistically, we didn't have the budget, the VFX budget, to create something from scratch too. For the 70 shots VFX shots that are in there. So we said we knew we needed to work with somebody who could build a monster, who could build a thing, and that's how we got connected with Hex Mortis Design Syndicate. Like she said, they've worked on Vampire Diaries. They were just working on Black Lightning. I think it's one of their most recent things. Nice. And we got them on board. Again, they were temporarily down because of COVID.
So they happened to have time.
They happened to have the time, and also we showed them a monster they'd never heard of before. So I think it was a little bit exciting for them too, to get to create something for the first time. And then so the process was pretty simple. Josh Jameson, he's a kind of a graphic artist. He started with basically concept sketches. What do you think about this look for the face? What do we think about this for the whole body? What do we think? And then kind of once we settled on, okay, she'll be this big, she'll be this size, her leg will look like this, her face will look like this. then you go into a little version called a maquette, which is like a little this tall little action figure, just so you can kind of see it in real life. And then you know, once everybody kind of signs off on that, then they go on and build the whole thing. So the biggest piece for the Patasola is because she has one giant leg. Our stunt guy had to fit both of his legs into her giant mermaid tail, like leg type contraption. So both of his feet are coming together on these industrial strength, like steel stilts. So he's basically on like a gigantic pogo stick that he's jumping. It's really cool. And so we worked with him a little bit because we were on a really quick timeline. So I got to see him a few times kind of on the stilts, just kind of doing the movements of basically a three-legged gallop is kind of how she has to move. That was the only kind of way she could ever really move practically. And then from there, they 3D print like his face to the mask, and they create the whole mask, and then they add details, and then they add like the flesh and carve it away. So it was really cool because I feel like on a movie where you have more time, that will be my favorite part of it, because like you just watching these things come together. I mean, that's like the stuff you go to Disney for, is to see the behind the scenes, the shop where they're making the creatures and stuff.
And something interesting that they did was take pictures of the actress playing the human form of the Patasola, and they used that to inspire the face and the eyes. And then they also worked with the costume designer to get pieces of the dress that the human wears, and they worked like tatters of the dress onto the big monster as well. So it was cool seeing their ideas to like pull that version of La Patasola with the other versions that you see. They made sure to kind of marry them.
And so it was coming together. And then honestly, because we were on such a tight turnaround, because we knew we had our little kind of window of opportunity to shoot it, the first time I technically saw the entire suit put together and moving was down in Florida, I think 2 days before we were actually supposed to get it on set and shoot the like practical sequences and stuff. So
oh man,
it was kind of a whirlwind. It was nuts.
The anxiety that's probably involved with that, like you just don't know what, in your own short time frames.
It also I think anxiety like that only comes when you're working with people you don't believe in, or if you're trying to do everything yourself. You know, when you get the right people in the right places and you allow them to express their art and do what they love to do, you manage and you keep deadlines and stuff, but you do just kind of get this feeling that like, oh, this is going to be great. Like they're going to bat for us. Like this is going to be awesome. And so it started when we say it was like the dominoes fell. After a certain point, you just go, it's going to be awesome. I'm not worried about it.
That's so cool.
And if it's not, we'll make it work. Like you start to get in that place of just like, it's going to be great.
Optimism. Yeah, for sure. Where's the suit now? Do you like have it in a room somewhere?
So they still have it.
They still have it for us because it needs to be stored like in a specific way.
So there's
they have her
one suit.
Nice.
It was probably close to like in the 70s or 80s when we filmed it.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine, our stunt guy is like trapped in this full body suit for like the 12-hour shoot day. It's basically like a steam room in there. And so the suit and because there's some really difficult movement sequences, and he's basically on one giant pogo stick. He fell over a few times in the suit, which it was designed that way because it's like a giant crash pad surrounding him. So it was kind of he was totally fine. But the suit took a bunch of bumps and scratches and stuff. And because it's basically a leg, a chest piece, and these massive arms, all of the places where those were like attached just really tore and ripped and stuff. So we basically made a suit that had like a 3-day shelf life, and we used it.
But they're ready to make her again for La Patasola 2.
Yes, the sequel. We have to have that.
Well, because you need to see how the cheating impacts well, okay, I don't want to give away the ending,
right.
but there's the journey of being cheated on.
Yes,
for
that
sure.
we have to complete.
So
you cannot.
that.
It's not as simple to defeat her as the movie might make you think it is.
Yeah.
I am so excited for a sequel.
Yeah.
So I want to jump back to the script really quick. We had talked about the characters and their personalities. There's something actually that the movie starts with that I think is very interesting, and that's with AJ and Naomi and how they butt heads, right? Like from the very beginning. It's awkward for me because I hate conflict like that. I avidly avoid it. I would have thrown myself out of the car if that conversation was something that I had to subject myself to, right? Like I try to avoid that kind of conflict. But AJ and Naomi, they have their opinions. They're very vocal about them, and they're vocal at each other about them, right? It's one of those things where they're kind of at each other's throats a lot of the film. And when people watch the film, they'll see that there's a dynamic, like an attraction mechanism that is kind of tending to. But I also think that it's interesting to have this social and cultural disagreement as such a prominent component of how this script was written. And I wanted to see if you could speak a little bit more to why you chose the social and cultural disagreements and debates to put into the script, and maybe what audiences can take away from this kind of extreme conflict.
Yeah, sure. I wanted to write something that felt, well, first you need conflict. I mean, you have to have it, right? To make a movie interesting, you have to have it. And it just sort of feels like sort of the authentic conflict of our time. Those types of, everyone's riding a car, just loving life. And all of a sudden someone says one like weird offhanded comment. And then an hour later that has now turned into like a big shouting match and stuff. I feel like that is a little bit of part of our society right now, is like someone will say something that they meant as a joke, and then someone says, well, no, defend yourself. Why do I don't, and then all of a sudden it just turns into this back and forth. I think I wanted it, I think I really enjoyed that. Just sort of being one of the central conflicts, is these two characters who come from just two completely different existences in the world, who both think their way is right. That's my favorite, is I feel like I see that. I feel like I have always been one of those people who the kind of Sarah James character where like I really can rock with anybody. I'm really empathetic, and I've moved a lot, and I've lived with people of just all sorts of different backgrounds, and I can really get along with anybody. But in every group of people you've ever been around, there is always that person who says, nope, this is it. This is the way. And when you get the two of those people in a room, I think it's, whereas some people might find it stressful, I enjoy it. I think there's a fun tension in that. And I think that leading to the kind of that attraction, I think there is something really honest in that no matter where you're coming from or what opinion you're trying to get right, there are some people who just want to feel heard, and who just want someone to go, you know what, I think you're right. There's some people who just feed off of that and need that. And so when you get two people who need that, I really enjoyed that. It was sort of that brought them together. Almost. So the main reason it's in there is I just wanted it to feel today. I just wanted it to feel like a real conversation that people are having right now, without getting political, or without taking a side, or without calling someone trash or calling someone else a bad name or anything. Like I just that's what I like, is there's really no profanity in the whole movie. There's a couple F words every here and there, but to be honest, like they're having this really intense conversation, but it's actually kind of really PG
Mm-hmm.
in its language. And I was really proud of that I felt like
Yeah.
I could tap into a real conversation that kind of real adults are having nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of let the characters do it themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
really not have anybody be right or wrong. I think that was, I enjoyed finding tension kind of within that.
Yeah, you know, and the tension is definitely there, and you can feel kind of the stress and the, you know, the conflict in that. But I also think that the story handles that tactfully, and how it uses it. Maybe not to, I mean, it pits them against each other, but there are also moments where they figure that moment out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's hope for humanity.
Yeah.
You know,
And
we
that's,
can.
yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that you know, it's you love and like attraction is like the oddest thing that we humans like go through, because
Mhm.
you can hate every single thing a person says,
Mhm.
but then you want to look at them, or
Mhm.
you want to be near them. Like there is such an odd thing about like attraction, and what we find attractive, and who we're drawn to, that I
Mhm.
think social media sometimes it takes that away, because
Yeah.
people just turn into what they post. We don't get
Mhm.
to be near them when
Right.
they talk about it, or what they feel. And I feel like that's what I was proud of, was getting these four people together. And yes, they have very differing views of probably the world and everything,
Mhm.
but it still doesn't mean you can't like be attracted to a person. I mean,
Right.
we've all went to high school. Like we know we know the feeling, right? I mean, the feeling
Right.
exists. It's real, right? And so
I think you make a valid point. I don't want to get you in trouble, AJ.
Hey, I did a movie with my husband, and
You
I was
did.
like, sure, let's do a thing where you cheat on me. Love it.
that's really funny.
A lot of
That's
people think I'm weird, but
No,
that's
there's
fine.
a whole story in and of that of itself, because of the different characters that I needed to live at the end.
Right.
I was like, sorry, babe, I have to do it.
I didn't care.
I was like
That's
thinking
funny.
through this. I was like thinking through the story. I was like, yeah, there's really no other really way to do this. It was pretty funny.
But that's, I mean, the level of trust that takes is awesome.
Yeah.
And you know, clearly it's worked for you guys, and you made a fantastic movie, and you
Yeah,
know,
thank you.
I'm happy to see that. But let's talk about something more fun, like Disney and
Yeah.
Disneyland. I want to hear more about your guys's your interest in Disney, and more about roller coasters, because I'm all about roller coasters. Yeah, tell me more about like what you guys do, you know, when it comes to going to Disney, and you know, just enjoying your free time.
So we've actually kind of created this tradition where like when we started the business, it's really hard when you have a business open 7 days a week until 1 a.m. to ever find off time. So every like 3 to 4 months, we would escape to his parents' house, and his dad works for Disney World. So he gets us into Disney for free. So very early on in our dating stages, every 3 to 4 months, it became a tradition to go to Disney World. And it was the one place where you're completely enveloped in an experience in a different world that you're not able to think about anything else. Because we go out to dinner on like a date and it would be a business meeting, you know?
Yeah.
So, but when you end up in Disney World, like it's all Disney all the time.
Mhm.
I've always been a Disney fan. Like it is my life dream to and create a voice of a new princess for Disney. Like I sang Disney,
Yes,
I
Disney.
sang, I danced. But anyway, so I really have always been a Disney kid. And then to meet someone who was like, oh, you want to go to Disney World? Like,
I grew
it's
up there.
free. Like,
Yeah, come
let's
on.
go on. You want to go for the weekend to my mom and dad's house so we can go to Disney? And I was like, yeah. So that's just now been like every couple of months we go to Disney, and we spend New Year's Eve at Disney World every year. And it's really
growing
special.
up in Orlando is a really unique place to
Mhm.
to kind of become a teenager, so to speak, because part of just like the culture of living in Orlando is because there was a time when the Florida resident pass to Disney was like pennies. It was so cheap. And so there was a time when you'd be like, hey, I'm kind of hungry. You want to go to Epcot? Oh, okay. Oh, while we're here, let's hit Test Track. Okay. And then you leave in an hour. Like it was just kind of a part of growing up there, was just going to the parks. I worked at Universal when I was just out of college. And so to me, it's just always been home. It's whenever we just need to escape and just kind of, yeah, like she said, just it's all Disney when you're down there. Whenever we just need to like breathe,
yeah.
It's just the place. It's a quick drive down there, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is nice. So I love it. Epcot's my favorite park by far, hands down. Wow. There's because what they did with the World Showcase and how they built all the different countries, and then Epcot's the original vision of Epcot, but also Epcot's just sense of like wonder. Like it's less about the magic and it's more about the wonder of like the reality. Can you see his nose?
You see our dog?
Oh, yep, I see his nose. He has to get some screen time too.
Excuse me, I'm here.
Adorable.
This is Max.
Hi, Max.
He's from Burbank, California.
Okay.
But he doesn't love roller coasters as much as his mother.
That's fair.
I feel like I also love amusement parks and rides because I was always super, super short as a kid. So I was never tall enough to go on anything until I was a teenager. So it was like once I hit the height where I was finally tall enough to go on rides, I was like, put me on everything, anything and everything. I will do it. So I'm like all about the thrill rides because, all through my childhood, it was like, no. And then I finally got that freedom. So I love the rides.
And then I grew up playing Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I love Roller Coaster Tycoon. Brad, don't get me started.
Yeah. So I used to legitimately want to, I thought I was going to go to school, be like an engineer. And
roller coaster engineer. That's what I thought I was going to do until I realized I hated math. But I love roller coasters.
The Roller Coaster Tycoon, the like Bay Lake, or the one that was like the gigantic lake. I remember it was like one of the maps in between. I remember I used to, when you like beat the map, you move on to the next one and build a new part. I used to never do that. I used to keep my same part, and I used to play it until I would like get a new, you play long enough and you all of a sudden you start getting all these Western themed stalls and rides and stuff. So then I would destroy a whole part of my park and I would rebuild like a Western section. And then I would get like space stuff. I would destroy my jungle area and build a space. So I would kind of treat it like a real park. I remember you beat the levels with like $10,000 in like game income or whatever. I remember I had like $15 million in like, because I just played it for so long. Like,
that's so awesome.
I was obsessed with Roller Coaster Tycoon as a kid. So
that's yes. I mean, I would literally, I'm not even kidding, days. I would spend days playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, like straight. I might take a nap and then get back up, and it was a problem. I had a problem. Interestingly enough, so actually, my first roller coaster was at Knott's Berry Farm. Ghost Rider. Yeah, Ghost Rider.
That was the one. I got down to Knott's Berry Farm for Knott's Scary Farm.
Oh yes.
Halloween, but I never got to actually just hit Knott's Berry Farm like just as like a theme park. Yeah. So that's what I still want to do for sure.
Do it. It's awesome.
That and Cedar Point. I've always wanted to go to Cedar Point.
You know
Me
what?
Too, I haven't been. Have you been?
So there's nothing in Ohio except Cedar Point. There's some other places,
and her sister.
And her sister. Well, there you go. You have a place to stay.
But she'll tell you the same thing.
I've spent decades. I can measure things now in decades. I've spent decades wanting to go to Cedar Point. And it was a couple of years ago, a friend of mine who's from Ohio just said, Thomas, we're booking a weekend and we're going to Cedar Point. And that's just what's going to happen. So we literally took a red eye from Seattle to Ohio, and we got the rental car. We went to the park and then just went back and forth between the park and the hotel. And that was the 2 days that I spent in Ohio. It's amazing. It is
all you
so
can ask.
cool. I do strongly recommend it.
Don't they have like 30 coasters?
They have a lot. Is it? I think they're hovering around the 20, 21, something like that. There's a lot of
Okay.
them. But let me tell
Yeah.
you, they have the best. Millennium Force, I remember watching them build that like
Yeah.
20 years ago. That is now like one of my favorite coasters of all time. It is a
I think it was
phenomenal roller
I think it was
coaster.
the first US coaster to go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
For a time,
So
it was like the fastest coaster in.
it was the fast. In Cedar Point they do that, right? Cedar Point and Magic Mountain, I don't know if you were involved or watching that feud that they had where every year they were trying to break each other's records. It was
No.
amazing. It was through the 2000s because every year they both would build a roller coaster that would break a record, and then then the record that they were breaking was most roller coasters as well. And so it was, anyway, it was a very interesting thing to follow.
I would say, because I was in Orlando when Islands of Adventure opened.
Oh, were you?
So that was when that was the first time everybody got to ride the Hulk.
Yeah.
And the Hulk was the, it was the number one, I don't know, rated coaster in the country. So
Sure,
the Hulk is probably my second favorite coaster I've ever ridden. Like my legitimate coaster, my second favorite. I think my first is still Goliath.
At Magic Mountain.
Yeah, it's to me.
So good.
To me, it's such a simple ride. It's just so powerful. Like they don't even need to flip you at all. It's just the ride is so powerful that it feels like you're going to space.
Is this the Goliath at Magic Mountain or at Over Georgia?
So probably Magic Mountain I liked more. The one at Over Georgia was a little bit I feel like they need to like clean the wheels, clean the track a little bit. Yeah. It's a little bit too shaky. I just remember the one at Magic Mountain was just like smooth as butter, but it was, it felt like you were in a spaceship. It was just so powerful and fast. That was my favorite.
Gillie, do you have a favorite?
So we went to Six Flags Over Georgia for my birthday this year, and I went on is it called the Twister? The one where you're almost sideways.
Was it Mindbender or
the green one?
It's like right at the front of the park to the right.
Oh yeah.
And they were playing surf music outside of it.
What was that one called? It's like a bobsled coaster. The way the track is. The track
but you almost are like sideways
so
on the track.
I don't know the name of it at all. So it's the track is built like an old-fashioned wooden coaster. But then the wheels.
Oh wait, is it Cyclone? It's not Cyclone, is it?
Yes.
Cyclone? They just redid that one, right? It now has the steel track and it does the flips and everything.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So it's still built,
amazing.
It's still built like wood, but now the track itself is steel and it's like an inserted grip. So the wheels go into the track. So literally it's the most like secure I've ever felt in a coaster. Like you don't feel the thing move at all. Like you are a part of the track, and it literally it does these angles of these flips. You don't even understand where you are half the time.
Yeah,
it was cool. Yeah,
that is my favorite I've ever done.
I would love to ride that one. I would
come visit us. Atlanta, Georgia. We'll go to Six Flags.
I am so down for that. I'm due for a trip back over to that area. So yeah, we can nerd out about roller coasters all day. I would like that a lot. I guess we got off topic. I guess I do want to be respectful of your guys' time. Is there anything else that you guys want to mention or talk about with La Patasola and I don't know, let viewers and audiences know?
I mean about the movie itself, just if you feel safe, please go see it in theaters. If it's nearby. Like we totally get some people don't want to go out there with COVID right now.
We're in 20 theaters around the country as of right now, and I think they're working on booking more. So we're in the Kent Theater in Brooklyn, New York, which is super cool. Like, nice. Oh my gosh. 2 theaters in Chicago, 3 in Houston, Seattle.
We're up in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Tampa, Florida, Colorado Springs, up in Washington, like she said. So it's all over the place.
And then all the different streaming outlets like iTunes, Amazon, Vudu. So if you guys want to,
Xfinity, Fandango, Turner. I mean, it'll be everywhere on streaming.
And if you want to check out, our Instagram is La Patasola _movie. And I know that we're putting up, you know, slowly all the places you can see the movie up there as well. So.
And then find a friend who comes from a different part of the world than you and ask them about their monsters, because you'll hear some really cool stuff, because either they will tell you about their monsters, or their grandma, who makes the world's most amazing whatever dish, will feed you and tell you about this monster that she swears she saw. It's cool. So I hope the movie can inspire people to just learn about the world and learn about other places, and know that there are stories out there that we can't even fathom because we just haven't really asked yet or opened our eyes to them yet.
All I want you guys to do is to keep learning about these stories, and then make a bunch of these movies, and then just have like a Jones verse. Like how
Jones verse.
Jones verse, yes.
So here's the fun story about that. So for the second movie, if we got to make a second one, we would want an actual South American director to direct it, because the goal of the second movie would be to open the door up. We have a character in mind. The reason the Amazon rainforest, I'll tell you this right here. This is really, I think this is really cool.
Right.
The reason the Amazon rainforest is called the Amazon is because I forget the actual explorer who was there. So I don't want to say the wrong history. But when they were going down the Amazon River before it was named, they came across a tribe of warrior women who fought against them. And they fought so valiantly against these European explorers that he reminded them of the Amazonians from the Greek legend. And that's why the Amazon was named the Amazon, because of this tribe of women that I can't remember the exact name of at the moment. And so the idea in the second movie, we would want to like partner with a South American like production company, filmmaker in some way, because we want to introduce a character who's like a member of that tribe, who kind of opens the door up to a universe where she is protecting people from all of these creatures that have been released from the Amazon because of like deforestation and different things like that. Right. So kind of like a guardian of the people. So like there's kind of a universe idea that we would love to like bring in and have like actual South American filmmakers get to like make these movies and like for the world. Like, so there's an idea in there.
Someone please finance this.
Please.
I want to see this. Marvel can't be the only one with the cinematic universe. We have to get these stories out. Very cool. Well, for those listening, AJ and Gillie are the director and producer of the film The Curse of La Patasola, which again is in theaters January 14th and on streaming January 14th. I strongly recommend pop some popcorn or go to the nearest theater that's playing it, watch it, have a great time. And until the next time I come to you with another interview, we will see you then, and keep it for real.
Keep it for real. I like it. Bye. Thank you.